Welcome everyone to more Reddit stories. Today's subreddit is r/AmITheA, where people let the community decide if they're an a-hole for what they've done. One of these is about a mom making her daughter sleep outside. Let's jump into these. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cook meat when my husband broke our lonely daughter's only friendship because he hates vegans? Obligatory throwaway because I don't want any angry vegans in my inbox. My husband is from the South, and let me just say this, he hates vegans. His family is a stereotypical country one, and they get ridiculously mad when they see Beyond Meat, etc. adverts on the TV. They're practically vegan-phobic and hate any menu which says suitable for vegetarians or vegans, etc. This never really bothered me, and I thought it was funny because I ate meat and I didn't think it was a big deal. My daughter, now 6, was born allergic to a lot of things like eggs, and is also intolerant to lactose and grass, pollen, etc. She rarely got to go to birthday parties because we couldn't let her eat anything there. When she was a baby, my husband ate an egg sandwich and kissed her, and she broke out in hives, and we had to take her to the doctor. All new foods were tried under medical supervision. While she can eat meat, she can't eat any fun meat like nuggets because of egg contact. One of the kids she recently met with is our new neighbor who is around 4 houses away. They are completely vegan, and their son doesn't eat anything they don't. So at his birthday, she could eat the actual cake and not a muffin I'd sent. It cheered her up, and they had play dates even when we weren't supposed to. I was glad she made a friend. His parents hadn't called for a while and didn't pick up ours. When I saw his dad while I was out, I was like, hey, what's wrong? And he was really hostile, telling me to never talk to him or his wife again, and that he'd pray for my daughter. I thought that was crossing the line. He pulled his phone out and showed me a very rude text from my husband. I didn't believe his story that my husband started a fight, but when I asked him about it, it was proof that Sheila wasn't hanging out with hippies. I remembered the vegan hate, and I told my husband, until he apologizes to that family and they agree to let their kid play with ours, I'd never cook meat again. He said I needed to get over it and do my job, but I am cooking, just not what he would like. Am I the a-hole? Well, I personally have to say, not the a-hole. I honestly don't understand how someone can have so much hate for veganism. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Out of all the things in the world that we have to put our energy into, why would anyone bother having an emotional reaction over someone's dietary choices? To me, it just kind of sounds like that overly masculine mindset of, oh, if you don't eat meat, you're not tough. Huh, I am so manly. But that just screams insecurity to me. But no, not the a-hole, because that's their daughter's only friend, and she just lost him. That poor girl. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my friend told me he wanted to name his son Jackson with a G? Gackson? My friend's girlfriend is 8 months pregnant, and while hanging out the other day, the topic of names came up. We kicked around some pretty normal ones, Brandon, Anthony, Hector, when he suddenly threw out Jackson, which I actually like. But then he surprised me by mentioning that he wanted to name him Jackson with a G. I immediately bust out laughing and then ask where the hell the G would go. In fact, I pretty much fell out of my chair because that crap is hilarious. Well, it turns out that he wasn't messing with me, and someone on his dad's side was actually named Gackson, pronounced Jackson. I stopped laughing once he made it clear that he was dead A. He hasn't spoken to me much in the past 2 days. Am I the a-hole? Well, I have to give this one not the a-hole because I personally probably would have had the same reaction. That is just priceless. And that kid would probably go through so much crap growing up. Imagine roll call in school. Is Gackson here? They would just be setting up that kid for failure, in my opinion. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be in a child's life that I gave birth to? Background, my best friends couldn't have children, the risk of her death was too high, and she already was having fertility problems. So long story short, I agreed to be her family surrogate, mostly due to the fact that she was my best friend. I cannot stand her husband though, the only reason I did this was for her. So I became pregnant with their child and everything went smoothly. There was a contract in place that I wouldn't be financially responsible for the kid and so on. It was a pretty standard contract. Well, that was 6 years ago and my best friend died. Due to the 2020 plague, I wasn't able to attend her funeral. Her husband has been calling me recently that I should step up as the kid's mother because I did give birth to her. He keeps calling that I need to be in his daughter's life. After declining multiple times, I finally told him that that kid isn't mine, even though I gave birth to her, that I have no obligation to do jack, and that I'm not going to replace my best friend as her mother. He called me an a-hole and said he's going to get his lawyer involved. Am I the a-hole? Nah, you're not the a-hole. 1, you are just under a binding contract that you were just supposed to be the surrogate for this child. And 2, you already went above and beyond to help your friend by sacrificing your body and your health to have this child. Because having a child is not an easy task on the body, it takes a huge toll, so you are already making a huge sacrifice for them. And by doing this, you never had any kind of obligation to the child in the first place. Don't let them make you feel guilty over it, and if they want to get their lawyer involved, let them go ahead and do that because you've done nothing wrong. So no, not the a-hole in my opinion. You've already done your part and are a good person for it. Am I the a-hole for making my daughter sleep in a tent? I'm a 34-year-old female and a single mother with 2 girls, 16-year-old Jasmine and 14-year-old Jessica. Their dad died when I was pregnant with Jess, and I had to work hard. We hit rock bottom, and I was barely making paycheck to paycheck, but I managed to get a degree, become successful, and we live well. Point is, I know how effing hard it is to be at the bottom of society, and my daughter knows this, which is why I was livid at my daughter's actions. Yesterday, Jasmine showed me a video of Jessica cussing a homeless man out and telling him, "Stop asking me for money, you'd earn it yourself if you weren't so effing lazy and spending what you earned on substances." When the homeless man complained about the cold, we live in Northeast England, Jessica responded, "Yeah, people camp for fun, even in December, you can't complain, you're living someone's holiday." Fury was an understatement for what I felt, as I thought I had raised an empathetic daughter. Along with finding the homeless man and making her apologize and help pay for a hotel room for a night for him, she paid £20, as well as signing her up to volunteer at a food bank. I decided to take her up on her offer of sleeping outside. I locked her bedroom door so she couldn't go in, put a sign on it saying, "Closed for the holidays," pitched a tent in the garden, and filled it with blankets and the sleeping bag I used when I was camping in Norway on a family holiday as a teen. I slept in the room closest to the garden for that night, so I was nearby if anything was to go wrong. She was reluctant to do it, but chose it over the option of not having access to her phone until the Christmas holidays are over. In the morning, she was crying about how horrible it was to wake up on a cold mat and get disrupted sleep due to birds. After comforting her, I asked her, would she like to do that every day like the homeless man? It struck a chord with her, and she was crying over her actions. While even after the £20, she was rolling her eyes and her apology was not sincere. This afternoon, I came home from work to Jessica making a big meal to donate to the homeless people who live on the road near our house. I was proud of how she turned over a new leaf. And after taking the food to the people, my sister came over. Apparently my nephew and Jessica were talking at school, and he asked her about her plans for the afternoon, and she said that she was going to cook for the homeless. My nephew asked what triggered that, and Jess told him everything, which he relayed back to his mom. My sister said that my punishment was too harsh, and just the £20 and the food bank would have done the trick, and I was acting irrationally due to my past. Now I'm second guessing myself. Am I the a-hole? Again, I'd personally say you're not the a-hole because, like you said, she didn't seem to show any sincere remorse just after making her pay for the hotel and such. It was only after you made her sleep outside that she actually really seemed to turn over a new leaf. I wouldn't necessarily see that as a punishment, more so just helping her see another perspective. Makes sense that it could seem harsh from an outside view, but if you really think about it, I think it was probably for the best. Am I the a-hole for not visiting my in-laws after my brother-in-law told my son to call him daddy? I'm a 35-year-old female, and I lost my husband a year ago in a car accident. This was the most devastating thing that ever happened in my entire life. And I gotta say, I lost dear ones before this tragedy, and it's a completely different kind of pain. I have a 3-year-old son that my in-laws help take care of. My mother-in-law, sister, and brother-in-law have been supportive and helped a lot. My brother-in-law would literally spoil my son with new toys and clothes, and they do a lot of activities together. My brother-in-law is divorced, and he's been coming to my in-laws' house all the time. I'd have either my mother-in-law or brother-in-law babysit my son while I'm at work. My job requires me to go on trips between 5 days to 2 weeks, depending on my circumstances, and I had my first business trip after my husband's passing 3 weeks ago. My brother-in-law offered to look after my son while I'm gone, and I thought nothing of it, but was a bit worried since my late husband was the one to look after our son whenever I'm away. I called every night to check in on him, and things were going well. I returned a few days ago, and I went straight to my in-laws' house where my son was. I spent the day there talking to my brother-in-law about what they did and such. I was playfully asking my son if he had a good time, and he told me that Daddy took him to see the ducks at the park. And I paused after I heard him call my brother-in-law Daddy. He did it again while my brother-in-law was talking to him. I was confused. My mother-in-law was just looking at me but said nothing. I asked my brother-in-law and he said it was nothing, but my son kept saying Daddy till the evening. I was so mad. I corrected my son many times, telling him that this is uncle, not daddy. My brother-in-law got mad and told me to let my son call him whatever he wanted. I confronted him about teaching my son to call him daddy, and he admitted he did that. He argued that I wouldn't have a problem if I let my son call some stranger daddy. I yelled at him and told him to stop whatever he thinks he's trying to do and to respect my boundaries. He walked out immediately, avoiding to discuss it any further. I was also mad at my mother-in-law as she was seeing all of this and not doing anything about it. I took my son and went home. My son still says daddy, and it hurts every time because he hasn't used this word since his dad's passing. I told my mother-in-law I won't be visiting any longer, and she started texting me saying I can't do that and I have no right. She said that I was being ungrateful for the people who supported me and I should stop being mean and using my son to get them in line, demanding that I visit with my son. The trip was 3 weeks ago. It's my first since my husband's passing. He passed away a year ago. I'm sorry if anyone got confused by that. I just haven't been myself lately. I thought I should mention this in case it is relevant. My brother-in-law's ex-wife had a stillbirth in 2018 and they both got separated months after. Once again, I'd have to give this one not the a-hole. Not only is it completely understandable that this would obviously be a sore spot for you, but I don't understand why the brother-in-law would want him to call him daddy. I don't know. Either way, it's completely understandable that you wouldn't be comfortable with that. And that was r/AmITheA. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to drop a like and subscribe for more Reddit videos. Thanks for watching, peace and love to you all, and I'll catch you next time.